Hello again, everyone. This is Joe Henches with Beyond the Chart, and this is technical analysis of the stock market today. Today is Saturday, February 14th. Happy Valentine's Day to everyone out there. And we're going to take a look at the markets the way we usually do on the weekend, and our indicators, weekly charts, and we're going to look at four stocks today: CREE, CSIQ, which is Canadian Solar, Delta Airlines, and 3D Systems. Okay, the Dow was up 47 points on Friday, continuing the push. It looks to me like this thing's trying to break out. It needs to push above the December highs and to get in sync with everything else, because the S&P 500 broke above the December highs. And again, you know, these fan lines breaking out, this looks like it's trying to go. So the wave count, I took away the wave count on the Dow Industrials just because, honestly, I really struggle with the wave count on the Dow Industrials. And it seems like on the S&P 500 and the New York Composite, it's a little clearer to me. So that's why I'm doing it here. Now, I think we are working a fifth wave, and that we've got 1, 2, and then we're working a 1, 2, and a 3 coming up. So really, this is like 3 within 5 is the way I'd say it. So anyway, you know, so now this is starting to act like a third wave. We'll see if we continue to get the power behind it. The New York, well, let me go back to the NASDAQ first. The NASDAQ is really, I mean, you could look at the move here that's really coming in on the NASDAQ. Now, one of the things I'm looking at on, you know, the NASDAQ and the Russell 2000, you see this congestion in here. You could almost draw a line through the middle of it and then say, okay, well, you know, from the middle of that to here kind of thing, this distance to the middle of this congestion, and then we get the same kind of thing up here, and basically like a two-legged type push. So that's one thing to think about in terms of, well, where's the next, you know, threshold that, you know, how far is this thing going to push on an initial push? So, you know, I'm always looking at different scenarios just to see what may play out. And now look at the New York Composite. Again, we talked about how this was coiling up, the fan lines, it's breaking up. It is right at this trend line, which looks like a neckline to me of a Head and Shoulders consolidation, okay? So here's the, you know, the shoulder, here's the head, and here's the shoulder. Now you could sit back and say, well, this shoulder doesn't look super symmetrical to this, but, you know, here's this one, and then, you know, you had some points in here like this that are kind of similar to this. Now, you know, here. Now these are, granted, deeper than this was, and you know, it's not acting out perfectly, but this whole picture looks really, really interesting to me. And so now that this is what I'm watching for, to see, does this break on out and break on higher? Okay, let's take a look. Let's move on to the next one, which is the Russell 2000. And again, this is acting real well too. And the Russell 2000 is up here at all-time high close too. So you could see that it is closed above December's trading. Okay, so the S&P 500, the Russell 2000, the NASDAQ. Well, the NASDAQ's not at all-time highs yet. We'll take a look at that when we look at the weekly. Okay, so here's the Dow weekly. And you can see the big move we had last week, kind of a follow-on move here. And now it's approaching these highs. We're going to see if it can punch on through. S&P 500 definitely closed at a new all-time high for the week. And, you know, what's interesting is it closed above even the trading, the high trading of these weeks back here, the week of the 26th and the week of January 2nd. Closed above all of that range. So that's acting strong to me. NASDAQ weekly, you look at this week, I mean, the high for the week was 893.84. It closed exactly on the high for the week. Now, sometimes that means it's a strong fall through. Sometimes it, you know, it doesn't do anything. But definitely bullish attitude, bullish bar to the trading this week. Now, what are these dotted lines up here? Okay, this is the all-time high closing week price for the NASDAQ back at March 2000. This is the all-time high intra-week price in March of 2000. So here's the weekly close and here's the weekly intraday price. So it is rapidly approaching. It punches through that. And we were in all-time high trading on the NASDAQ, which is really kind of amazing because the NASDAQ had, from that bubble in the NASDAQ, it dropped about 80% of its value. And it's come back. And, if it does break through that, it's done it in 15 years. So pretty interesting move that it's got going on here. Russell 2000. Now, this is another one. The close of this week is above what looks like a range that it's been in since March of last year. Okay, so almost the entire last year. You can see it looks like a little range here. Had a false breakout. It broke down, pulled right back up into this, consolidated for a while, and now is pushing above. So we'll see, do we get some continuation out of it? But it's sure acting strong because we're talking about something in terms of this point, and this point, and this is closing above that. The high here, 1221.44, we closed this week 1223.13. So this is all of a sudden now, with these last 2 weeks, acting pretty bullish. And so it looks like, to me, one of the things I think about when you get this kind of range, this is why this trick, this false breakout, you have to sit back and say, okay, you would have thought this thing's really breaking down right here. And then when it pulls back around, you got to say, okay, wrong. It's definitely not doing that. Now, this range, the way I would estimate this is say, okay, what's the distance between here and here? And it's about 132 points on the Russell 2000. So then I would say, well, if it's breaking out of that range, it should go another 132 points, which pushes up to 1347, right up here. So if this trading range holds, the breakout holds in terms of, this kind of distance, I'm going to expect that this move goes up to around 1347. We'll see if that's what happens or not. All right, that's it on the weekly. Actually, I don't think I showed this, which is the New York Composite Weekly, NYSE Composite Weekly. So again, this is right on the edge of this hold. You can see clear, we're told what I was talking about in terms of shoulder, head, shoulder type pattern here. And so this is right on the edge of breaking up to the upside. And okay, let's now move into the indicators. Short-term trading index, or trend, here it is. Okay, so the 10-day is right, the blue line is right at 0.928. So again, to me, you get extreme readings when it gets down below 0.9. And we're not that far away from that. The thing that's kind of interesting is the put to call ratio on equity put to calls is not anywhere near, the 10-day is not anywhere near an extreme. It's like 0.65 or something like that. So I don't know. I mean, this could indicate, we get down in here, it could indicate a short-term top. We'll just have to see how the market action plays out. The VIX, always have a hard time finding it. It keeps dropping, which is what you expect because the market's continuing to push the high side. So, the volatility index is dropping, closed on its low for the day, low for the week. And the next thing is the high-low. Net 52-week new highs minus new lows. Not much change here, but 192 more new highs. Now the thing that I'm noticing is, notice how this is down here. It's not up here where these last two peaks were. So it's kind of interesting that you look at let's look at the S&P 500. The S&P 500 is doing this little breakout type action, and I'm not seeing, let's look at the New York Composite even. A little, it's right up into here, but when you look at that and compare it to the high-low, this doesn't look like it's confirming a big move. So we'll see whether or not this starts to fall through, or whether this creates a divergence that signals that it's not going to go as far as it might. I mean, who knows? I mean, you never know what the market's going to do. All you can try to do is read the tea leaves and get some kind of indication as to what is happening, what's underway. Let's see. I talked about the put to call. Let's move into the high yield bond fund, ETF. Now, again, this is the risk off, risk on scenario. So when this is rallying, that means people are buying high yield bonds, and that the risk appetite is on, which usually happens when the market's going up. And so this is going up. And as we talked about, it broke this downward trend line. So it's kind of confirming that, yeah, that kind of activity is coming in. The market's going higher. Semiconductors. Semiconductors almost closed at new all-time high here. I think it's all-time. Let's see. 56.53, not quite on the close. And let me back it on out. No, it's not an all-time high, but it's the highest since 2001 or 2000. So the highest in many, many moons. So anyway, it looks like it's leading up. It's going with the market is what it's doing. So it's not diverging as far as I can tell. The home builders. Home builders also is pushing up, and we talked about this. And then the look at the financial ETF, XLF. Now this one is not up here breaking out to new highs yet, but it has been rallying fairly strong over the last couple of weeks. And we'll see. I mean, it's not confirming that there's any kind of. We've gone to new highs in terms of breaking the pattern of lower highs. We got lower highs, lower lows. Now we've gone to a higher high. So, for the trend to turn, you got to get higher highs and higher lows. Well, we may get a pullback. We'll have to look to see what kind of pullback do we get on it. All right, let's see. Let's move in and take a look at the dollar index. This is interesting. It's been going sideways, basically chopping sideways since January 23rd. Been down a little bit, kind of sideways Friday, pulled back. So last Friday was what, the 6th? So closed 94.64. So we're basically down 0.4 over the last week. So basically unchanged. Now, the interesting thing that's about this is we look at the dollar index, and then you look at the the oil. If I can find this. Here's what I'm looking for, which is United States 12-month oil, USL, okay? So again, I've drew this little consolidation last time, and here we are up here right at the top edge. Looks like it's trying to break out, but that's not much of a breakout bar. I mean, that's like a little doji bar. So it could be that it's running into some resistance. Now, the interesting thing about oil and the US dollar is look how this really broke down at the end of July, okay? It was the last third of July, or the last part of July, when oil really started to break and broke this trend line. There was actually two trend lines, a longer one and a shorter term one. And the interesting, when you look at that and then you look at the US dollar index, the US dollar index broke out of this trend line down here low at the end of July. So as the US dollar rose and got stronger, the oil and other commodities started collapsing. Now, we'll see how this continues and how this continues to play out if the dollar continues to strengthen from here. And also you notice that since July 23rd, we've been going sideways on the US dollar, and you go back to oil, and it has been doing, basically got this little rally, but where's the 23rd. Okay, right here is where the US dollar started to go sideways, and then within a couple of days oil got its feet underneath it and it rallied. Okay, so that's going to be real interesting to watch that scenario continue to play out. And then the last one here on the markets is gold. Gold has continued. It rallied. It tried to rally here the last couple of days, but not much, and it's looking kind of weak. It did get this pullback to this neckline. Honestly, I'm not quite sure what to make of this. I mean, this looks like some kind of ABC right now. It could be that we're doing a B type thing. You know, it could be that we're getting a three wave, you know, up here like an A, and then we get a pullback into here like a B, and then we go like this up to here and get a C, and then, you know, like a three wave correction, and then that's the counter trend move, and then we head back down again. Because, and then the reason I'm kind of saying that is because, that's just one thing that I'm possibly looking for, okay, in terms of scenario, is because I think the bigger move to the downside here was 5 waves, okay, and 5 waves always is in the direction of the trend, okay. So what I'm thinking that we're getting now is some kind of counter trend rally of some kind. I don't think this little 3 wave is enough to be the full counter trend. I think it's going to be more than that. I think it's going to, because I'm looking for it to kind of correct all of this. And so when you look at this and say, well, okay, it's right here, I believe, and I didn't grab that totally correct, but if I go to here, if I come back and pull that, this is a little tricky when there we go. All right, so for this, if this is the entire move from here to where it says 5A, okay, then this right here is a 23.6% retracement. Here is a 38.2%. Here's a 50%. Okay, so this move that it did in this little ABC didn't even go 23.6%. So that makes me feel like this isn't nearly enough yet, which makes me think this may be just leg 1, then we get 2, and then we get 3 that comes back up into this range maybe somehow. So we'll just have to watch to see how the waves play out, see if that's what happens. We'll get rid of that. Zoom back down so we can see where we were. Anyway, all right, let's move in and take a look at the stocks. Start off with CREE. There we go. Okay. CREE's been in a little bit of a rally mode here, but it's kind of an A, B, C. But really, when you step back, it broke this trend line, which is kind of interesting. It's been in some kind of corrective mode since back up here August of 2013. So that's a little over a year and a half. All right. And I think that this looks like an A, B, C, okay? Because this was kind of a 3 wave. Whenever you get that first wave down as a 3 wave, then usually you're developing a flat, which means B comes back to the beginning of A. So that's why I'm thinking this is an A, B, and then a 5 wave C. So that's why I'm thinking there's a good chance this corrective action may be over here, and we may be starting to go in terms of a new impulse wave. This may be 1, maybe down to 2. We may be in a 3rd wave up. But we'll have to look to see, does this continue to turn up here? Right now we have the short term, the 10 is above the 21, 21 is above the 55. So, you know, we do have the short term and the intermediate trends turn to the high side here. So I'm going to continue to watch CREE. It could be that it's starting that push. And let's see, the next one we'll take a look at is Canadian Solar. Where are you? There, here we go. Now this has had one heck of a rally, and again, here's one that I think also the corrective action may be over. Well, I think that this looks like we had a complex, very complex A, B, C, W, kind of a zigzag back X, intermediate wave, corrective X, and then we got a zigzag back down here for a Y, an A, B, C for a Y. And so therefore, I'm calling this a wave 2 because I thought this was 5 waves up in wave 1. So if this complex corrective action is truly over and it broke this trend line here on this big move that happened here. I think that was all a part of the whole First Solar thing, I think. But it looks like a pretty strong move. Now, if this is 5 waves, 5 little waves in here, we may get a pullback, again. Remember, even though it looks like something's taking off, you're always going to get a second wave pullback. That can be kind of deep. And here's why I say that. Let's go back and look at the first wave of Canadian solar back in, when was this? November 2012. So you had a nice little first wave up. Well, you got corrective action back. And it takes, before it gets really in sync to get the big move to the upside, notice how the red line got above this blue line here, this dark blue line. Okay, so the 55 got above the 233. Once it pulled back and then started to rally, all 4 moving averages got in sync right here. Okay, 10 above 21, above the 55, above the 233. That's when the big move happened. Once all the moving averages were in sync, then the big move happened and continued to happen, etc. So when you look back over here, you still got the 55 below the 233. You got the 21 trying to get above the 55. So you've got a ways to go, a lot of work to do to get everything realigned for a big move to the high side. But that doesn't mean that you're not going to get some decent tradable moves, up and down and back up again. So right now, I'd be watching to see what kind of pullback do we get here on Canadian solar. And who knows? I mean, this may continue to push higher yet. But that's what I'm looking for. I'm thinking the corrective move may be over on Canadian solar, and therefore watching for setups to the upside right now. And the next one is Delta Airlines. Delta, I think, may have completed a 5th wave. And the reason is because I think we've had 5 waves up on Delta. 1, 2, a real strong extended wave 3, wave 4 pullback, creating a nice channel in here. But I don't think this 5th wave is going to get all the way to the top of the channel. Basically because of when I do Elliott wave projections as to where the 5th wave might end, it's already in that zone where it could be ending. And that's why I think that this is starting to break down. We're getting some divergences in here on the indicator. And, it's getting real choppy. And we'll see. We'll see if it continues to roll over or not. And that may happen if oil starts to turn. Although, I don't know. We'll see. And, that's what I'm looking for. That's what I'm suspecting on Delta, that it may be in a topping process. And then the last one we're going to take a look at is 3D systems. If I can put my little hand, there it is. I think it was right on it. Okay, this one may be also trying to put in a bottom. Again, it's had a heck of a corrective move. Let me look back though, because this one has had one heck of a rally. And it has corrected back down to the bottom of the 4th primary wave. So that's what makes me think we could be in that zone where, okay, this is corrected enough. We get this WXY type of complex correction in here. Almost looks like a declining wedge to me. And here's what I'm talking about. You can see this little wedge action. And so it's breaking out of that right now. But again, the 21 is still below the 55. So the intermediate and the long-term trends are still to the downside. This has got a lot of work to turn before it really starts rallying in terms of extensive rally to the high side. But, we'll just look to see, does it set up? So if I had to guess where I think this move may go, I would guess maybe to the top of this move right up in here and get some resistance. It looks like it may be, I don't know, it might run into some resistance right in here based on these previous rally peaks, pivot points in here. We'll see. We'll see if we start to get any of these moving averages turning more to the high side. But I'm suspicious that it may be trying to put in a bottom here. So, all right, that's my take on 3D systems. And that's it for today. We'll be back tomorrow with trade ideas. We'll take a look. I haven't looked at all the stocks here yet this weekend. We'll look to see, look at the ones that we've been in, and then look to see if there's anything new for the coming week. Okay, so if you're watching this video on anywhere else besides my website, head on over there, check it out. We've got several things over there. If you're not a subscriber, subscribe. It's very easy to do. Just click on this little red box here, first name and email, and gives you access to the Trade Ideas webpage. And I've got the free PDF for you, the 5 essentials. And remember, stay focused, follow your plan, and trade without fear. Have a great weekend, everyone.